Today we're going to talk about the county manager's proposed budget for fiscal year 2019, which begins on July 1st. We'll get an update on the General Assembly's legislative session and how it's going to impact Arlington. And we'll also talk about a controversial residential development that the board approved in North Ballston, transportation improvements for Columbia Pike, and the board's decision to help finance a new affordable housing development near the Metro in Roslyn. Let's dive right in. Of course, it is budget season, and the manager has proposed his budget for fiscal year 19. Where do we stand? What was the reaction to the budget, and what kind of year is this going to be for Arlington?
You know, I think our manager said it well. He said, there is never a time that the budget is easy. This year is hard. And that really characterizes what we'll be talking about for the next couple of months. Because of the challenges of a high office vacancy rate, we are growing our revenues slower than the county government might otherwise grow just to keep up with demand. Basically what that does is it creates a gap, $20.5 million to be precise. So the manager has proposed cuts of some positions and services, in some cases some proposed increases in fees that are assessed to our residents. But the board did take a vote on Saturday to advertise the current tax rate, which basically means we can go no higher than the current tax rate. It was a divided vote on the part of our colleagues, 3-2. Essentially, it's really kind of a signal of how much appetite we have to assess risks or talk about expansions. I do think we are pretty clear, the five of us, in intending to keep the tax rate steady this year.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the office vacancy rate. You know, we're in an era, people assume Arlington is very prosperous, you know, one of the wealthiest communities in Virginia. We have very low unemployment, that kind of thing. But this office vacancy rate, we've been hearing quite a lot about it. Now, it is down from its high point, which I believe was 21.4%, around that. But it's a long process. Right?
Indeed it is, and it's a great point. That's exactly where we're seeing the softness that's making this budget a little more challenging. The office commercial vacancy rate is still high, 19.4%, and that's the result of a lot of things. We still think and we still know Arlington is a really desirable and competitive place to do business. As you mentioned, we have the lowest unemployment rate in the Commonwealth, which we're very proud of, about 2%. But there are fundamentals in how this country, and in fact the globe, does business, increasing amounts of teleworking, for example, lower per person utilization of office space as we see things like hoteling going forward. And of course, we're still seeing some of the consequences of base realignment and closure, which happened less than a decade ago, all of which is adding up to a sustained vacancy in our office sector, and that does lead to lower revenues for us.
And in Arlington, we're very kind of unique, actually, in that we have more or less that 50-50 in terms of commercial taxes versus residential property taxes. And we want to keep that because that keeps things more affordable for our residents, correct? So that's what leads to that quandary, shall we say.
Well, one of the main things we want to do is make sure that we maintain our AAA bond rating. Mm-hmm. This is very important because as once we've dealt with the budget and the board, and I would say I, as a new board member, am looking very forward to the opportunity to really dive into the details over the next 6 weeks to figure out, what are the individual line items that represent our priorities and the priorities of the community, and making sure that we will balance the budget as the manager has proposed for us. But in keeping that AAA bond rating, when we get into the capital improvement plan, our CIP, and we're looking at what kind of infrastructure improvements are we going to be able to fund, being able to borrow at that lowest rate is very important. So our fiscal austerity and the way that we have always managed our budgets has given us that opportunity.
And then, of course, we have some new spending needs with Metro and with county schools that kind of all adds to this perfect storm of, I think I heard the manager call it an austere budget. So where do we go from here?
So we take this austere budget out to the community. It's now posted online. People can follow all of the details and all of the process at budget.arlingtonva.us. The county board just yesterday launched our first of 11 work sessions. These are opportunities for us to really take deep dives with the departments to understand their work and to understand the changes to their budgets. It's important to know, and we talked about this yesterday with the Department of Human Services, that it's not just cuts. A lot of it is reprioritizations and reallocations. And I think the departments, along with the manager, have done a good job to adapt and adjust, not simply cut in an unthoughtful way. So we'll dig in across these 11 work sessions. They're all available to watch online, either live or after the fact. We'll visit with many of our commissions to get their advice, and we'll be having a lot of conversations with residents. There's a survey that people can find on that budget webpage as well as on the county board webpage to react to the manager's budget, let us know their thoughts, and we will have two open public hearings in April, one on the budget and one on the tax rate, so that people can come and give comments in person if they like.